Hello, welcome to the first Proverbs Study Course video. This is going over Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1 through 7. I'm going to be reading it out of the King James Version. It says, "The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." Alrighty, to begin with, one thing has to be defined before anything, and that is the fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord is important to all of this because if you don't have the fear of the Lord, then you won't get wisdom, and if you won't get wisdom, you won't take instruction, then you won't be saved, because at the end of the day, it's Jesus who saves us. Now, let us begin. The Proverbs of Solomon. This is Solomon, the wisest king in Israel. If you look over at 1 Kings chapter 3, you'll see that there is a reference up on the screen, 9 through 14. You can take the time to read it, but I'm only going to read 12 for you for the sake of time. It says, "Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and understanding heart, so that there is none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee." So not only is Solomon the wisest person in history, is what it's saying here, with the exception of God. They can't be competitors because Jesus, God, gave this to Solomon. Solomon's wisdom does not come from himself, comes straight from God. And since we know this is from God and that he is the wisest, that the Proverbs stand to be true. And now that we know that this is the case, we can understand, okay, well, what is the whole purpose of this? And that goes back to the fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord is not like a being afraid of God. It's putting God above everything else. It's the first and greatest commandment. Love the Lord with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. And in 1 Kings chapter 3, at the beginning, we see that Solomon, he sacrifices like 1,000 offerings on a high place to God. And then that's when God asks him, like, what is it that you want? And this is how we get to verse 12. So the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. So to get into the knowledge of God, you need to have respect for him. You need to have respect, and you need to place him in his rightful position. But if you want to be foolish, you can say, you know what? I don't need to respect God. I think I can just be a good person, even though you have no knowledge of what it means to be good. Then you're just going to not be corrected. You're going to keep going until God gives you your desire to be free from his rule. When we go up, we can go to verse 2 through 4, starting with 2. Wisdom and instruction. Let's define those terms. Wisdom is the application of knowledge, discernment, and understanding given from God. But to make it even clearer, wisdom is what you should do. It is what God thinks you should do. Not even thinks. This is what God needs you to do. So the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. The greatest commandment, love God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. And then the second one would be to love others as yourself. You have to love others. Instruction, this is pretty easy to get. You got to be open to correction. We are all evil. This includes children from birth. We are separated from God. We have a natural evil tendency due to the sin in the Garden of Eden. No one is exempt from God's punishment. This is also shown when Elijah sicked those bears on 42 kids. This is why you need instruction to perceive the words of understanding. What is understanding? We're going to go to Job chapter 28, and it says, verse 28, it says, he said unto the man, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil, that is understanding. And in this chapter, and I have it up on the screen, you can read, it says that when he gave all of the, I guess you could say like the mechanics, if this was a video game, when he set up his world, he gave the wind directions on how to be wind. He gave the physics for water. He gave the physics for lightning. He set up all the thermodynamics. He set up all of it, and they follow his rules without fail. It's like gravity. Unless a sizable chunk of the earth disappears, everything is always going to fall at 9.8 meters per second. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Some things are just consistent. Light is always going to travel at the same speed, no matter what, unless going through a medium. There are universal constants. Now that we know that, doing exactly what God says, that is wisdom. And avoiding what he says not to do is understanding. And that's what it means to have to wisdom, is the what and the why, and the ability to learn why. And then it says to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity. So for these, I'm gonna start out with justice, then go to judgment, equity, and then go back to wisdom. Justice is how you do justice for other people, like how you take care of other people. Remember the second greatest commandment: love others as you love yourself. The key to this is that you put others first. And it says to do judgment. This is how you make decisions for yourself. And equity is to not show favoritism, because although God does give everyone different rewards and people are given different things to what they can accomplish, at the end of the day, our salvation and our damnation are all the same. It's either did you follow God or did you not? And that's why we should treat other people the same way. We should not be respecters of people, but we'll go over that later in the course. Then it says to give subtlety to the simple. Oh, I'm sorry. We have to go back to wisdom, the instruction of wisdom. So you can understand, not so you can understand, so you can apply the wisdom in an effective way. It's not just, I know what to do, but how does this apply to the rest of my life, and use it in a way that it's going to get you closer to God. And that's the entirety of Proverbs. This is something to help you get closer to God so you can hear his voice clear and know exactly what you need to do. It says to give subtlety to the simple, and to the young man knowledge and discretion. Naive people usually have to learn from experience. That's what a simple person is. A naive person has to make a lot of mistakes to get that level of proficiency, whether it be social, at a job, at a workplace, or even in your own home life. You need experience. But God says, you know what? To help you avoid sin, because that's a lot of where sin comes from. It comes from ignorance. I'm going to give this to you for free, for nothing. And then it says this is for young people. It says young man. Around this time that it was written, it was a very male-centered society. But this applies to women just as much as it applies to men. And specifically, he uses the word young man because as the term young and free, so we make a lot of mistakes, or the term young and dumb, as so you have the knowledge to know like, okay, I probably shouldn't do XYZ, and the discretion to not give yourself over to whatever desires that you want. And that's what the importance of these verses is, to help the most vulnerable of the population to sin. Because if you train up a child in the way that they should go, when they get older, they won't depart from it. So it's important that you start young. That's the wisdom behind him saying the simple and the young man, because Once you develop a taste, it's going to be harder for you to break that pattern in the future. So it's better to start on fresh, unused soil. Once you start developing a taste, then your own ideas and your own thoughts are going to get in the way of what God's actually trying to work. This goes back down to fools despise wisdom and instruction. If you're always doing things your way, the way you want, you're not going to listen to God, because one, they call us children of wrath, and God is not really going to yell at you like that. He's just going to tell you the information. Now it says a wise man will hear and increase learning. So a person that respects God is going to be open to listening and learning. A man of understanding will be able to listen. They'll be able to perceive the words of understanding. They'll be able to understand Proverbs, the wisdom in Proverbs, the interpretation, because some Proverbs, they may have a practical outlook, but a lot of them, they are spiritual, and they tell you about the nature of God. It's like looking at an iceberg. You'll be able to understand the first part, but then you'll be able to go deeper and know the spiritual meanings behind it. And it says the words of the wise. So if anyone is speaking, another person or God himself, you'll be able to understand what he's talking about. Wisdom is justified of her children. They're dark sayings. You'll be able to accept some of the harsher truths that are brought up in the Bible. One of them being, there's no one that is good outside of God. No one. And this includes children. This is why Elijah, when he cursed these children, God allowed 2 bears to come out of the woods and kill 42 of them. It's one of these things that you have to get used to, because the better that you are equipped of learning and not putting your own opinions, like why would he do that, and try to understand it from his perspective, the better that you will be. This is why the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, because when you put God in, and when you put it in God's perspective, and you take the time to try to learn, like instead of saying like, well, that seems rude, why would God do that? When you put God first, then you'll be able to understand, you'll be able to have wisdom, and you'll have the knowledge of God. But fools are gonna despise wisdom. So this was Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. We are going to continue with the next video. It'll be 8 through 9. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please link in the Q&A section on Udemy, or if you're on YouTube, because this is where I'll post this first video, then you can just leave any questions and comments, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.